Hi, my name's Cameron Carlson with AnimeLocation.tv. I'm here at MetSuriCon 2023 with actually a very special guest from PowerCon, Mr. Sean Forney.
How's it going?
So we're going to kind of work away differently with the questions here. It's actually a rare treat that we have you here this year. You're here actually for PowerCon while we're here for MetSuriCon. How's it like seeing the crossover?
It's pretty surprising. Like the crowd yesterday was just nuts. Seeing all the lines downstairs, and seeing like the diversity of everything. And we actually, that I know of, we saw at least three, maybe five people that had crossed over that came from MetSuriCon. They still had their badges on, came over, checked out the con, walked around. So it's nice to see that there's some mingling going on.
So, kind of jumping into our normal standard question, it has actually been a while since the last time you and I sat down for an interview. You and I have seen each other,
Yes.
but sat down for an interview. It was at ColossalCon 2017. Been almost 8 years. How's it been?
Wow, I didn't realize it'd been that long. I guess it got thrown off because we've actually ran into each other a couple times locally.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a little wild ride. The whole shutting down of the world for the pandemic. So I didn't get out for like 2 years. Not that I get out that much anyway, but no, I mean it's been good. Things have been crazy, like in a good way, with just trying to keep up with all sorts of stuff. And it finally feels like this year, like things are kind of back into the regular swing as far as like doing conventions. Like it seems like the crowds are back, people are having a good time, and yeah, as much as we can get back to a normal, that's I think where we're at.
Awesome, man. So in that time frame, you really focused on your Scarlet Huntress with your wife being one of your co-creators. Tell us how that's been going for the two of you.
Good. So yeah, during the whole stretch of 2020 to 2023, we finished up a Kickstarter, and then we ran two more Kickstarters. We did the Scarlet's Field Guide to Cryptids and Other Creatures, and put that out. And then we finished out the story arc with issue 5 of the Scarlet Huntress story. And I think it was at the beginning of this year, we got everybody's packages shipped out and all that mess. So all that's like taken care of, tidied up, whatever. And we're like slowly cooking up some ideas for like the next stuff. I've got a couple things I kind of want to play around with before we dive back into like trying to do the next story arc. So slowly but surely we're getting there. It's just trying to navigate everything that's going on in life outside of that, and squeeze that in.
Well, that kind of brings us to the next thing. Tell us about the Kickstarter and the upcoming book you have planned.
So the next book we've got planned is an art book. It's going to be 84 pages, at least at the starting point. There will probably be a stretch goal to add some pages, but the book's already put together. I'm doing 3 new covers for it. We're going to offer it in a hardcover, a like spiral bound like notebook version, and then a trade paperback with the square binding. So I'm finishing up the cover for those so that we can launch this Kickstarter. Our plan was to try to do it closer to the show, but with everything going on outside the realm of like actually doing the work, it just hasn't been time to put it together the way we want. But this will be like the first Kickstarter we've like launched into that we have everything done, and once I have the covers done, so I mean the book will be fully complete. So when we launch the Kickstarter, we won't have to worry about trying to scramble to finish up stuff and do all that mess. So everything's there because we actually released a 25 print run of the book as kind of like a preview that we've had for the last couple of cons. So there's still a handful left at the table or left on the store if anybody's interested. But like it'll be nice that hopefully it will be smooth. I'm crossing my fingers that we won't have any like hiccups of like, ooh yeah, I got to crunch to ink 20 more pages to get this done and sent out. So like I don't have to worry about that as much on this one.
Well, that kind of brings us into the next question is like, tell us the challenges of working on a kit. Like, so a lot of people don't understand that Kickstarter has this thing where, okay, you have to, the money that comes in, certain portion of that goes to Kickstarter, certain portion also goes to the manufacturing of the product. And then there's also other fees and everything to getting things shipped out. So tell us some more of those challenges that you as a creator have to face that people just probably don't know about.
Yeah. So like the way Kickstarter has it set up on there, they've got like a guide that helps you like navigate and figure out what kind of funds you need to raise, things like that. And basically it's split into thirds. Like a third of it goes to your production cost, a third of it goes to the shipping, and a third of it potentially goes to you, but a lot of times it's like that kind of gets eaten up in doing some other stuff. So like when we did issue 5, I had 2 friends helping me out with doing the inks on the book. So some of it was trade off of like, hey, I already helped them, do a cover for their book, so we did some exchanges so that we were able to keep some of that funds going into like the actual cost of printing the book and such. And then another friend helped out where we traded off like our travel stuff. Like it's like, okay, we're doing a con, you help me out, Inc. I've got the hotel or whatever, that kind of stuff, so that funds could be allocated where they needed to be to make this stuff happen. And then outside of that, it's just the challenges of because doing all of this mess is my day job. It's not just, hey, I'm just going to sit here and work on my book. It's also I've got to work on several other individuals' projects too. So it's like trying to find the right way to squeeze that in, make it happen, and not rush it. Not put out something that I feel is inferior. Not going to live up to the standards of what we were trying to produce. So that's the last Kickstarter. Took a few extra months. Outside of that, it's something we posted publicly so people knew what was going on. But as we were trying to, what we thought was wrap up the project, Steph had some health stuff that came up that delayed us probably about 3 months in where we thought we'd be, because we were doing the usual scramble to get to a doctor's appointment, and all the other stuff that comes with that changes up your day-to-day stuff means, hey, this all needs to get pushed back. But it's done. We got it out of there. Everything came out fine with all the health stuff. So, can't be happier with, it was a mess while we were doing it, but, it all turned out the way it was supposed to.
Hey, no, I mean, honestly, we want everybody to feel happy and healthy, so that's the important part. So kind of, you're an artist, and recently the AI thing has been such a big deal. What are your thoughts on how AI could potentially help, but also hurt the art world?
So far, I got to be honest and say I don't see any kind of help. Hurt a lot. I mean, it's going to put folks out of business, and that goes for all art, not just drawing on a piece of paper. It means like everything from creating any type of artwork that's going to be used for anything promotional or something that somebody's going to use as a form of entertainment, but also writing. Actors, everything is going on with the strike with the Writers Guild and the Screen Actors Guild. That's going to affect everybody, and it's a very oversimplification of the whole thing. But I mean, who has not seen Terminator?
Some Skynet stuff.
Yeah. I mean, let's hope it doesn't go that far. But I mean, it's pretty scary what some of this stuff can do. And it's already threatening to put people out of work in various forms of any type of entertainment or any type of anything where there's any kind of creativity involved whatsoever. Even the stuff that people might not view as being creative, like doing copywriting for putting out an advertisement, or putting somebody typing up the information about, like, let's say concerns of releasing a new medicine or something like that. All that stuff could possibly be taken over by an AI of somebody doing something. And right now it's a scary place to be, to see that some people don't want to regulate it all. But I have seen other folks making some strides to regulate it, put some restrictions on what it can do, what it's capable of. So hopefully we'll get to a point where it's reined in, and people are made aware of what the negatives can be and all that.
No, I mean, the crazy part is technically I could put any information about you and just tell it to do that and write my script for me. Sure, I could be lazy, but I'm not going to do that because I care about what my questions are and how they're written.
Absolutely support your local live in flesh artist.
Yes, and like you just said, like taking it a step further, we could not even be sitting here. AI could make it to where we're yeah, like there's an interview going on and neither one of us are there. It's scary, right? It's so scary. So yeah, let's hope that doesn't happen.
So the cool part is that we talked about the fact that you and I are pretty local. We get to see each other, but you only don't just do local conventions. The one big one you love to do is the C2E2 out in Chicago. What's it like, like a local con, like we talked about? You can just go home, grab something, bring it back if need be. Like Steph can watch a table, you go and go get something. But, when you're out on the big shows, like how do you mentally prepare yourself, A, to do it, and then B, as an artist, you got to bring things. How do you make sure that you bring the right amount, but not so much you're just like, all right, the car can't fit anymore?
Yeah, so that's a challenge. So a very recent instance was we were at Colossal Con back at the beginning of June, and we took X number of books with us. Got to be Sunday, and we were down to the only book left was the one on the table that everybody had flipped through, and it was just kind of getting mangled. And we had one in reserve, and there were two guys that came up, and the going guy's like, "I gotta have this," and his buddy was like, "I want one too." I'm like, "It's the only one we got left. Like we could only fit so much stuff in the car." He still wanted it. He didn't care how beat up it was. He had it. So it's like there's that little bit of a struggle of like making sure we take enough and not take too much, because it never fails. We get to a con and we start unpacking our stuff, and the space is always tighter than what we have in our heads, and it's always like, yeah, we brought too much stuff. We need to leave this behind. But it's one of those things. It's like if you take it, you don't end up needing it, and if you don't take it, you end up needing it, and you're kicking yourself. So it's a constant struggle of give and take. And it is definitely a struggle of getting ready and just like that mental, like, okay, I need to make sure I've got all this stuff packed. What do I take? What do I not take? And then the back and forth of like, we should take this. No, we shouldn't take that. Like Steph and I will sit there and try to plan it out and just try to make sure that we've got what we need. When it's driving, it's much easier because we know, hey, we can fit this much stuff in the car, and we'll get there and we'll do with whatever we need. Like for like something like going to ColossCon, it's only a couple hour drive. We can pack a cooler, take stuff to keep in the hotel. But if we're flying or if we're taking a longer drive to like you mentioned C2E2, we still drive to that one, much longer drive, but we also take a little bit of a different setup. In some respects is a little bit lighter because we know what our space is going to be like. But we've also got like 4 days of being there, and it's not really convenient in that area to like go and be like, I'm going to go to the corner store and grab some sodas for the night or something. So we got to pack a little bit more like of that kind of stuff, so that takes up space in the car. And it's like, okay, what gets nixed that we take instead of that, or whatever. And then when we're doing like San Diego Comic-Con, it's flying, and it's like we've got like 2, maybe 3 suitcases that we can take. What's going to fit in there? And it always ends up happening. It's like, okay, let's try to squeeze the banner in there. Well, the banner's in the bag, and now we got room for nothing else. So that's one bag on its own. And it's a constant, back and forth of figuring out what's going to fit, what's going to make our weekend. And we've always got a core set of essentials that we've got to take. I've got a backpack full of like all my art supplies, right. And we've usually got some sort of case, bag, something or other that has portfolios of artwork. And then from there, it's like figuring out what kind of books we take and prints, that kind of thing, and just figuring out whatever space is going to work for making that trip.
I mean, yeah, I think about it even though I live locally. It's like, all right, what do I got to pack in my like backpack for just even a small outing, So I get it. So the fun part is that you also not only team up with like the big guys like Marvel and DC. You also do with smaller publishers. What's it like when you work on the smaller ones? Like I've run into some of your smaller publishers that you work with at other cons, even when you're not there. I was like, hey, you worked with Sean, and he's like, how'd you know? I was like, I kind of recognize a little bit of Sean's art here, and he's like, oh, cool. So what's it like when you get to work with the smaller publishers versus not just Marvel and DC?
It's a lot of fun because we get to do a little bit more back and forth. Any of like Marvel DC stuff I've done has been always like a third party thing. So it's like I have to deal with somebody, and then they have to relay it to somebody else. And I know it gets spread out more. I never hear that part of it, but there's a lot more hands involved. Whereas if I'm working with a smaller publisher or an individual, it's a much more hands-on experience. More often than not, it's somebody that's a friend. I mean, there's other instances where it's somebody I don't know from anywhere, but we end up becoming friends through that, which is always nice. But yeah, I mean, it's usually a great experience, and I enjoy doing it. I get a little bit more, I think, creative freedom I don't have. Like, for example, if I'm doing, like, a lot of the Marvel stuff in the last handful of years has been doing, like, the sketch cards, and I kid you not, I get a thick booklet of stuff I can't do and a very short list of what I can do. Yeah. So I love that, being able to have that creative freedom to be like, hey, you want such and such for your cover, what if we tweak it and did something like this? Or I get the opportunity to have quite a bit more input, get that back and forth conversation, and then also get that experience of like we might be doing a con together, or at least relay back and forth through messages or something of like, hey, how'd your con go? Like yesterday, most people that follow me know how much I work with Marat Michaels on doing the various Pooh books and Hardly Thin and all this other stuff. We were both sitting at a con yesterday, and my phone rings, and I was like, it's him. It's like, hey, buddy, what's going on? He's like, hey, and he could hear I was at a con. He's like, what are you doing? It's like, I'm at a con. I know you are too. What's going on? And it's like, when are you gonna be back home? I was like, I'll start back to work on Monday. So it's like, Monday we've got some stuff already brewing in the works that we got to get cracking on. So it's fun to like know that there's always something like that going on where it's like, hey, show's going well. We're gonna jump on doing this thing because this thing went so well. So it's always fun seeing that kind of. It's not an immediate reaction, but it's a very quick reaction to see how well something goes over that we've done.
No, I mean, you said it's the Pooh books is for him. Oh, dude, I love those covers. They're hilarious because of the differences in terms of like where you put Winnie the Pooh and all the different characters. And I love how like you guys reimagine classical, like you're taking Winnie the Pooh and then you're taking these classic Marvel characters or DC characters and you're reimagining them as if they're like villains and heroes with Winnie the Pooh. It's probably one of my favorite, like, just the cover art is just hilarious for me. So, again, we talked about, like you said, when you work on the Marvel and DC stuff, you get that stack of, like, hey, don't do this. But when you get to work on your own individual artists, Scarlet Huntress, or, like you said, the team-ups with the other guys, what does that mean in that terms of freedom? Like, what does it help you as an artist be like, oh, I can go, like we said, you can take the Winnie the Pooh thing and just kind of go with it. So being an independent kind of gives you a lot more freedom, right?
Yeah, it gives me a lot more freedom. It gives me the ability to kind of explore different stuff. Like if I'm working on something of my own and it's like, hey, I want to paint today, I'll break out the paints. If I'm doing something for somebody else and it's a quick turnaround, that means I got to stick to the basics of what is, kind of my everyday in and out to make sure something gets met for a deadline. But if I get the opportunity, it's like I can break out some paint, break out some colored pencils, some markers, like, and just kind of have a little bit more fun with it. I think that little bit of freedom is just like, it's the same thing as like when you're a kid and you get released to go play outside and do whatever. It's kind of that same vibe of like, hey, I can play around, do this thing, and a lot of times if it's something I'm doing for me, it's like I don't have to worry about the feedback from somebody else saying, well, wouldn't it be better if we did, this or, threw that in or, whatever anybody's feedback be. I don't always have to have, take that into consideration. It can be like, well, I want to do this and I'm having fun with it. It's going to be whatever I want it to be. But, also at times there's, those restraints do help because it's like that makes for a better image or, somebody's input may have been, hey, I never even thought to do that. Yeah, I'm going to run with that now. So there's always a good mix of pros and cons that go back and forth between the two, and as long as some way, shape, or form I can find a way to have fun with it, like that's what I like. I get the most out of when I'm doing this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, kind of this is my weird creative freedom is working with John and the rest of the crew is doing anime on location because in my day job it's crushing rocks or moving rocks. That's my job. So it coming out here actually is a release for me as well, creatively. Because I don't write as a day-to-day thing. I only write for this, so it's kind of like the same thing. It's that sense of freedom. No. And John said try IT. Kind of wrapping things up, we obviously know Scarlet Huntress is your current project that you're allowed to talk about because it's your project, you own it. Yeah. And some of the Pooh stuff, you can talk about that. So, is there any other upcoming projects that you can talk about that fans can check out?
So I know right now, Coffin Comics is running a Kickstarter for, I believe it's Lady Death running right now. I am doing a limited run of hand-colored covers that Wills Portasio did the line art for. So they send me a box full of books that have the black and white printed art on the cover, right. And then I hand-color that cover. Like, I just finished one up from, 2 Kickstarters ago. I hand-colored 21 books. So it's somewhere in that ballpark.
That is a lot of work, though. I mean, people have to understand, it's literally you going really tiny in the lines and putting your own color in it and then going, well, that took me 50 hours. Here's the next 21 of them I have to do. So, no, I understand. That takes a lot as an artist to do that. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine. So, yeah, that's in the works right now. So if you go to Kickstarter and search Lady Death, that'll pop up, or search Coffin Comics, whatever. It's one of the higher end tiers, obviously, because they're selling a limited piece of artwork for it.
Yeah.
So you got to scroll for a while before you get to that one. But it's cool. I'm getting to work with like a guy I admire quite a bit. A couple guys I admire. Brian Polito, who runs the company, I get the opportunity to work with him. And then also, not directly, but I am getting to color a piece of Will Portasio's artwork, and it's a guy I admire quite a bit. So like having that opportunity is amazing. I know there's a couple other things coming down the pipe. I'm just kind of blanking on it right now, and I've got something I've got to sign a contract for at some point throughout the weekend that I'm excited for, and not at the same time. I'll just say right now, I can say it's a sketch card project, but I can't release the property. But I just know that it's something I grew up with, and I am very excited to get the opportunity. It's the only reason I'm doing it. And then like I said, we've got some Scarlet stuff that's going to be coming down the pipe before too long. I've got a couple other ideas that I want to play around with, of just some ideas I've had kicking around in my head for a while that I'd love to like put that down on paper and kind of experiment with it, see if people like it. And then I know from what I saw on Facebook and the phone call yesterday, there's definitely some poo stuff coming down the pipes. If
we want to refer, when we say poo, we mean Winnie the Pooh-ish type stuff, not the other one.
Yeah. Well, I got asked yesterday if I had a big box of poo at the table, so I was like, not yet. Right. And fingers crossed, if all goes well, we're doing Cincinnati Comic Expo in September, and I do plan to have a Do You Poo or All Out Poo, one or the other, variant that'll be exclusive for the con. Just means it just depends if I can hit the deadline of getting the cover so we can get it printed and have it in time for the con. So I think that whole ball of wax there is everything is kind of like cooking right now. See whatever else comes in here before too long.
Alrighty, and so we just discussed these projects. Where can we follow you online so that people can keep up with it? So when they are ready, people know like, hey, I can go get my box of poo.
Yeah. So all my social media is at Sean Forney Art, SeanForneyArt. So type that in. That'll take you to all the social media, and the website is just SeanForney.com. That's got links to all of it. Because social media is changing every day. Because this thing pops up, and then that one goes away, and then that one gets canceled. Blah blah blah. Whatever. So just search me on all those, because I know I just joined Blue Sky and Threads and all that mess. So find me on any of them. Shoot me a message or whatever. We'll keep everybody in the loop of what's going on.
Alrighty, Sean. It was so great to talk to you. Thank you for coming out, not only to MatsuriCon, but also to PowerCon. Thank you for coming out today. It was really great to talk to you again, my friend. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
All right.